let's keep on working on the back end of the model. We have a panel that more or less just sits in flush inside of this area. And rather than try to build this panel and match it up with the curvature of this piece, I'm instead going to duplicate this piece. And let's center up the pivot of the duplicate. I'll slide it back a little bit, and I'll just make some adjustments to this. And that should take care of everything I need. Let's go ahead and, let's see here. Let me take my move settings. I'll switch on retain component spacing for a minute. And I'll curve snap, curve snap, curve snap, and curve snap. And I'll just snap all these guys over. Let's see. Like so. Whoops. Now I should be able to theoretically just drop this whole piece down just a few units, and that should line everybody up. And it does. So that takes care of that. A little bit of gappage right here, but that's because, well, one, we kind of need to adjust this a little bit. And it probably wouldn't hurt to create a surface thickness extrusion. But let's start slowly. We'll curve snap these vertices back here to the polygon edges of this piece to close up the gap. So, and it looks like I have a little bit of cleaning to do here. Kind of flatten that out a bit. And we'll go ahead and let's take a look at the top view for a moment. Yeah, we'll pull this forward so it straightens up in this direction. Okay. I think that'll make a good start for this piece. Now this next piece is very similar, but we'll go ahead and build it out of a separate piece of geometry. This has got a slight curvature to it here in the back, and this is a piece that's going to fold up like an aerodynamic surface as we get driving. So let's go ahead, I'll just deselect everything, hold down Shift, right mouse, and let's grab the Create Polygon tool. And we'll create us a polygon. Now it looks like I'm a little bit off here and there, but that's okay. We'll straighten things up as we go. Now, if I come back here to the back of my car, it looks like I've created a little bit of a slant back here at the back, which I'm okay with, but I'm wondering if maybe it's just a little bit too much of one. I probably won't make that much of a difference. Let's see if I can dig around here. We'll find another shot that kind of shows this. And these are pretty much level with one another. But yeah, it looks like everything's going to line up okay when I get finished, so just kind of move on. Now, I do see one thing that kind of interests me. See if I can find another shot of the back of the car. And that is that this whole panel that I'm working on now, this strip you see across here, is going to pretty much blend right into the curved area in the back where we have the Lamborghini emblem. And if we follow the curve layout that I've created thus far, you'll notice that it doesn't really account for that. So what I'm going to have to do is kind of start improvising a little bit. Let's take this curve that I've been using. I'll nuke out this polygon that I made a second ago. That's not really going to help me right now. Let's take this curve, and we can probably just delete it. We can grab all of the vertices of this piece back here. Let's go to the top view for just a moment, and we'll slide these up a little bit, because what we have suggested in the drawing and what's actually going on are in effect two different things. Yeah, so we'll pull this back to about here. I believe that'll work just fine. And now let's grab our Create Polygon tool again, and this time I will point snap up here. And then we'll just curve snap. So we'll create our piece further back here toward the back. And it looks like that's going to work out just fine. No worries. Okay, and let's see. From here, let's grab the Append to Polygon tool. And I'll do mostly curve snapping so that I can get onto polygon edges. Just make sure I tilt the camera to the right angle to accommodate that. And it doesn't really want to hit that. Maybe if I go to wireframe, yeah, it seems to help out quite a bit. I guess not. Alrighty, well, we won't stress about it too much. Let's just go ahead and point snap for now, and then I'll curve snap out here. And then point snap, curve snap, point snap, well, edge, point snap, and curve snap. Okay, so there's the beginnings of the piece. Looks like we still have a little bit of a gap here. I'm going to take, let me grab my viewport settings real quick, and let's go to show. I'm going to switch off NURBS curves for just a minute, because I don't accidentally want to snap to a NURBS curve. And let's snap these vertices right here against these polygon edges like I tried to do in the first place. That should work a whole lot better. Notice I just control-clicked on the yellow triangle of the Move manipulator so that I can move efficiently in all three axes. And that should help out. And grab this this vertex, and we'll snap it right there. Okay, so that should take care of that. Now, do we have a nice shot that kind of starts to show the back of this? Yeah, here's one right here. I think I see what the situation was. The back trunk piece comes out, and I guess it'd be like not even quite an inch before it drops down. And we can probably just create that with the detail we have on hand. If not, then in a worst-case scenario, I'll just make some adjustments a little bit later on. I think for the time being, though, everything's going to be just fine. I'm going to grab all of these faces, and we'll do a quick extrusion and add some thickness to this. Delete out that internal face, and I'm going to grab all of these edges here at the bottom front, and we'll pull these down a little bit. Press F8, get my move tool, let's go to modify, center up the pivot, and then I'll take the pivot and slide it forward a bit, and now we could rotate this up like you do. Now, it wouldn't be a bad idea probably to make sure that all of these are in a nice straight line. So what I'm going to do is we'll grab all of the vertices of this piece, and I'm going to pull them back a bit. Now, let's see. I can't really see my grid anywhere, but that's okay. I'm going to click on the Z-axis and then just snap. Let's make sure I switch off retain component spacing first. So there we go. Now that gets everybody nice and straightly aligned. Probably wouldn't be a bad move to do the same thing to this piece I just created. And we'll just hold down X and snap these somewhere nearby. And pull them up. And then we'll pull these up to meet. If there's a tiny amount of gappage there, it's not really going to cause any problems. Now, this piece, when it rotates up, there's a little receded area, I think is what I was trying to say there, that is underneath this. So what we're going to do is create that receded piece from this panel back here in the back. We'll bring it back up, and then use what we've created there to create the little nameplate area at the back of the car. Because in the end, of course, that'd just be a few edge extrusions. So let's grab all these, right mouse, extrude these edges, and we'll pull them back down just a bit. In fact, I'm going to pull them way out beyond, and we'll use the top view to line them up a little bit better. Let them go out just a little bit beyond so that the crevice within which this panel rests is big enough to accommodate it with just a little bit of gappage so nothing rubs. Okay. Let's grab all of these edges again. Extrude them. This time we'll just pick them up a bit. And we'll extrude again, slide them back. Just a hair. Yeah, I think this is going to work out really well. And now we just need to slope these downward. Now let's take a look at the back of the car again. This is going to end about 2/3 of the way down the headlights. And we need a little bit of rounding there, so a couple of extrusions will probably be called for. So let's go ahead and I'll control click on the x-axis. We'll pull this out once. And world axis again, twice. And that's pretty close, actually. 2 would give us the rounding we're looking for? Yeah, we'll go with it, and then if I change my mind later, of course, we'll just make adjustments when the time comes. And it's lining up pretty well with the drawing, so I can't really complain too much there. Let's grab some vertices, though, and do some tweak and adjustments. We have some thickness we should work on. Now we have an interesting situation here where if we were to cap off this area just right in between these edges, we'd probably end up with some bad geometry. It'd be a T-style geometry, which as we know is non-manifold. So what we'll do is we'll grab the fender back here and we'll create that thickness extrusion we were talking about a little bit earlier. Just extrude this straight down. And we can probably grab this vertex. I'll snap it here. We'll grab these two verts together, merge them, and then kind of create an average distance in between the two. Something primarily down. I think that'll work just fine in this case. That'll need to be cleaned up when we smooth, but for now, everything seems to be in order. Okay, now back over here. Should probably grab this edge here and we'll pull that in tightly. Now if there's the tiniest of gaps right here, I'm not going to stress about it too much at the moment, though I can clear some of it up just by moving that over. And it looks like somehow this vertex got a little bit up out of hand, so we'll lift that up. Wait a minute, I think I see what happened. Yeah, we're going to have to pull that down. Or you could probably pull this guy up, maybe. Maybe not. Yeah, it's because of that dip right there. Let's kind of side along. Yeah, a little bit of compensation won't hurt. So we'll take this vertex and push it down a little bit. And then I'll just tweak these verts out a little to help kind of make up for it. Because we want these edges to meet each other as straight as we can. Now that does mean we need to grab the verts here at the edge of the wing and pull these down as well. And we can pull these over, help close this gap up. Alright, so maybe let's go ahead and put some horizontal detail into this piece. Go ahead and allow it to have a little bit of curvature. So let's go to object mode. I keep pushing this down if you're missing me, and it's creating a straight line here, which is causing gaps as it comes along the side of the fender. So what I'll do is we'll grab the split edge ring tool, and I'll put just a couple of pieces of detail in here so that we can create some very subtle rounding as we move toward the back, which in the grand scheme of things will probably be a little more accurate to the car in the first place. We can pull this up a little bit. Pull this up a little bit. Whoops. And pull that up a little bit as well. Okay. Alright, and then this still kind of lifts up. Need to move that pivot point to a more precise location, but that's not all that big of a deal at the moment. Okay, now back over here, now that we've cleaned a lot of that up. Let's grab the vertex here at the bottom of this guy. We'll pull him down. Grab the next vertex back, pull that down as well, so there's a nice big wide opening for our airfoil panel that we've got in here. I'm going to grab the append to polygon tool and see what happens if I just append to there. It doesn't look like it's really what I want to happen, so we'll undo that. And instead, we'll just grab these three edges, extrude them inward like so, and I need to do a little bit of cleaning. Let me grab this object just so that everybody can see what I'm doing. And let's do a show, isolate select, view selected. I guess I had nothing selected when I did that, so let's turn that back off. And try it while selecting something. Probably help quite a bit. Alright. Now, let's see from here. Snap. Merge. Okay. So now you can see what we have. We've got the gap within which our little wing piece is going to lay. We've got the sort of emblem area back here where we could put, Lamborghini later on. Probably a good idea to also create some thickness off these edges back here at the back. So, well, actually I don't want to hit G. I want to grab extrude edge, and we'll slide these forward. Like so. Switch over to vertices. I want that vertex. And we can just snap it right there, merge the two together. And let's delete out the history on this object. Now what were to happen, just out of curiosity, if we were to try to smooth this out? Well, we get something kind of like that, which doesn't look all that hot right now, but after we make a few adjustments, will probably work out just fine. What I think might be a good idea in this case is to grab all of these edges around the side. Maybe go ahead and grab these two just for continuity's sake. We're going to do a minor edge extrusion on all of them at once. Now in that case, Y did reasonably well. So we'll go with it, and then we'll just clean everything up here. So let me grab some vertices. Let's frame up on them so we can move them. And I'll snap them over in X. Now the reason for this will be really apparent if you check your smooth again. Go ahead and tweak some of these out first. Because basically it cleaned up some of what was going on there at the corner. Now, we won't be able to pull that out unless we make another, or a series of creases, which we're not going to worry about right at the moment. Because what we may end up doing is beveling these edges out. Let's just run a quick test, which I will probably undo. But we'll just kind of see what this will look like if we were to bevel all of these edges. Probably bevel this one as well. Definitely bevel this one. All the way back here, and here, 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 and here. Okay, and bevel. Now, we got a couple of triangles there, but if we switch over to the smooth, I've definitely seen worse. If we take the bevel and set its segments up to 2, everything becomes a bit more defined. It looks like we might have to clean up a few normals, but overall, that's not bad at all. I mean, yeah, some creasing will need to be done here or something because we're rounding off too much, but overall, just looking at the clarity we have at the internal part of the shape, that will likely be our guy right there. That'll be what we'll do. And depending on how we handle areas like this, now this looks a little bit nasty, and we'll probably have to go in and figure out exactly why. Let's maybe switch back over. Oh yeah, this is probably it right here. Yeah, because there's some bitter craziness taking place here, so we'd have to clean this up. I'm going to undo that for the time being, though, because I don't want to bevel anything just yet. This is just something I was thinking about earlier, and it might provide us a nice way to create the creasing that we're shooting for all across our model without having to add a terrific amount of detail at the smooth level. By that I mean we don't have to add a whole lot of smooth divisions. If we'll go through and take anywhere we want a nice rounded crease, bevel it out, then switch over to one iteration of smoothing. Probably work out the best for us. Okay, so let's switch off the show, isolate, select stuff. That can all go away. And, yeah, I think things are looking pretty nice right now. Let's take a look at this little piece that kind of fills in back here. It should be relatively simple. Let's see if I got a nice picture of it. I got that one where the cars drive. Actually, this one will help, but everything's too dark here. It's all completely in shadow. I got that one where the car's driving away from us. And there we go. So, yeah, you can see there's a little bit of shape to it. Like, it kind of wedges up here underneath the brake light. You can see that it's underneath because there's a faint shadow coming from above. And then you have what looks like some creasing taking place here, and then it seems to kind of dip back in toward the car. I'm guessing, based on some of the shadowing I see here at the corners, that this actually slants inward at the top at a real gentle slope, and then more sharply it slopes inward toward the bottom. So it's like it folds in here, and there are two different directions, if you take my meaning. And if you don't, watch me model. Waha. Okay, now let's see. Let's hit 5, and let's see about this. We need to probably grab the edges at the back of this fellow and extrude these inward. Let's frame up on those edges and clean up some vertices so we can snap that vertex in. Get those two merged together. And we'll probably just pull this out a bit. And tug these out like so. Would probably be a good idea if our bumper came in a little bit more, so let me kind of pull this down, because we're losing a little bit of that angle. So let's see, curve snap, like so, maybe down even a little bit further. That's probably closer to the real thing. Yeah, we just need to clean some of this up a little bit. Alright. Okay, now I'm sure we have a little bit of thickness coming off of this piece that we'll have to deal with sooner or later, so we might as well create that. Slide this forward and switch over to vertices. I'll pull this down. Okay, so now we just need to start creating this piece here across the back. It will take just a moment, and because we need to kind of tuck it underneath this light, let's create a little more thickness for the light. Frame up here on this area. We'll just grab this edge all the way across. Let's extrude it inward. Maybe down just a tad. There's some nice thickness to play with. Probably need to pull some of these edges back a little bit further, but I can make more assessments on that as we plug through this. Okay, so to create this piece, now that I've done some setup for my surrounding surfaces, let's grab our... I've got my shelf back up, so I could start using it again. We could start off with a polygon plane. And the cool thing about doing that is it gives us something, if I set my subdivisions down to 1, it's something that we can move and rotate into place fairly quickly. So, push over here, frame up, rotate in X. We'll start off with about, well, 80's not really what I wanted. Let's try negative 80. I always get those confused, the positives and negatives on rotation if I'm just typing it in. So we know we need a little bit of inward slant just for starters. Let's come over here to let's do the rear view. And we can scale this and move it into the general shape of our opening. Give us something to start working with. And now let's go ahead and switch over to vertices and see what we can do. So we'll slide this back. Let's frame up on it so I can see it a little bit better. Control click out on the Z axis. And we can do the same thing here, kind of tuck this up underneath. And yeah, guys, we're going to need a lot of detail to wrap this up, but this is just to get us started with some sort of shape. Alright, let's take a look at our photo. It looks like, I mean, if you remember, there is a bit of a crease running along the bottom of this object that you can't really make out because of the angle of the camera. It looks like the crease in this rests just above it, and actually if we were pretty much in line with it, nobody would be the wiser, but we'll go ahead and pull this over, so it will be about like so. Back here, we'll push in. Okay, starting to look kind of nice. Maybe lift it up a little bit higher. And let's go over to object mode, shift, right mouse, grab the split edge ring tool, and we can add a little bit of detail. Now we don't want to deflatten this or deplanarize this, if you will. But we do, however, want to be able to fill in for any curvature we have in any other direction, which is more important over here. So we want this to kind of fill in the blanks without leaving too much gappage. A little bit of gappage will go unnoticed in any sort of lighting, so no worries there. Okay, so now let's do the same thing in the opposite direction. So boom, boom. I'm wondering if there really is any curvature here. There might just be total planarity across that. We don't really have any nice camera pan-arounds where we can tell for sure. We know that there's a little bit of curvature here on the brake lights. Now, also, it looks kind of like we go into a straight line back here. So we could take that as into account. It really is kind of tricky to say. If we come over here to the side view, we'll see that there's some suggested rounding going on. Now let's see if we can cross-reference that with anything we have toward the back of the car. Well, we can see there's some rounding there, and this is staying in parallel with it. So there's got to be some sort of rounding there, which is just kind of lost in that one photograph. So we'll go with it, and we'll create some rounding. See if I can grab all those at once and make that a little bit easier on myself. And pull this out. Okay. Now we have that slant in down toward the bottom, which looks like this might be a little bit too low. So what I'm going to do is grab these vertices, and we'll slide these up. Notice I'm curve snapping so that I don't really change the surface detail too much. Whoops. Make sure we get it on the right edge. Okay, now let's grab each of these. Now, just from what I saw over here, it looks like we're missing a little bit of curvature in the way this actually behaves. We also might have misinterpreted a bit of this shape, but I'll get to that here in just a moment. Right now, let's just kind of stick on where we are. So, grab all of these in this direction, slide them back. Some tweaking to get the shape just the way I want it. Maybe this does fit right up underneath that. I could still cast a shadow from there. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, that these just needed to lean back a bit. Now look, I've still got some of those edges selected over there, so let's make sure I deselect those. Just push these back for now. Or just grab these. Yeah, it probably works out better. Now let's reference that with the edge of what we see here. That seems to fit in a little bit better if we push that back. So I'm digging that. In fact, I could probably go back. No, that's about right. And okay. So yeah, about midway along, and we can grab. Let's take this edge. We'll slide it back. This edge. We'll slide it back a little bit. Let's shade back up, and we're starting to follow the curvature quite a bit more closely with the way that the actual piece is shaped. That's good. So it just boils down to having to look at something from multiple angles and figure out exactly how it's shaped. And let's extrude these edges out, and we'll pull this down and forward, because we know we have that slant inward. We can pull this way down. If we come in here to the inside, start relocating vertices to fill in the detail appropriately, close up any major gaps that we see, like here. And some of that will have to be filled in by bringing the bumper edges back. And I'll just grab these for now. I'll grab the rest of them later if I need to. Maybe I can just... We'll come over to right about where the license plate piece comes into play. And I'll extrude all of these. Let's go forward in Z. Whoa. Looks like I grabbed some more than I really meant to, doesn't it? Yeah, looks like I did. So let's undo that, deselect these edges, which I didn't want in the first place. And now let's try that again. Okay, that's a lot closer to what I was looking for. I did miss somebody, but we can fill the blanks in on him here in just a moment. What I want to do is grab the vertices back here. We could probably grab our trusty old split edge ring tool, make a split right about here that won't make any difference as far as that detail is concerned, but it will give us something we can kind of anchor to back here. Then we could grab the append to polygon tool and fill in that blank with that edge that I forgot or missed, or if you want to look at it. And I guess from here it would all boil down to reshaping all of these edges to conform to the shape the bumper has when it enters into the body. There we go. So it just kind of creates a crevice in there, which is fine with me. Now we can fill in this gap just a bit. Let's grab edges all the way down here, and I'll push these back just a hair. Let's grab the split edge ring tool. I'll put one more edge of detail here, which I will pull forward to help kind of clear up some of the roundingness. There we go. Pull that up, and I'll pull these up just a little bit. Alright, and let's do the shift right mouse. Let's do soften to soften that up a bit. Could probably grab this edge all the way across for now and harden that back up and start to get kind of an idea of what this is meant to look like. Now I do want to grab these edges that I left up here, and we'll tuck these up inside that headlamp piece. So just slide these back ever so slightly. Okay. Much nicer. Alright, so I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this video, and we will pick back up at the end of the next video. Thanks a lot. Or pick back up.